All right, this question tells us to look at the third sentence, the one that's underlined, but we do need to think about the entire paragraph. What is the function of this sentence in the overall paragraph? So let's take a look. The mimosa tree evolved in East Asia, where the beetle Bruchidius tyrannus preys on its seeds. Okay, so there's a tree and a beetle. In 1785, mimosa trees were introduced to North America, far from any bee tyrannus. So the trees are now separated from the beetles. But evolutionary links between predators and their prey can persist across centuries and continents. Well, obviously, there's some sort of kind of contrast here. Around 2001, B. tyrannus was introduced in southeastern North America near where botanist Xu Chang and colleagues had been monitoring mimosa trees. So beetle meets trees. Within a year, 93% of the trees had been attacked by the beetles. Okay, so beetles attacking these trees no matter where they are. So there are two answers to number 4 that I think can be eliminated pretty confidently. C and D. It offers an alternative explanation for the findings of Chang and colleagues. Well, no, it doesn't. It's not an alternative. I mean, they found that the beetle ate the tree, and so that's what the sentence is saying, that sometimes things that eat each other will continue to eat each other. Like, there's nothing alternative about it. It's saying the beetles are going to eat the tree. It's the same sentence. It's the same idea. So definitely not an alternative. D, it provides context that clarifies why the species mentioned spread to new location. No, it does not. Turn that answer choice into a question. Why did the species spread to new locations? Now, in that underlined portion, nothing says why the trees were in new locations, why the beetles were in new locations. It says in the other sentences in this paragraph why the tree was put in a new place, how the beetle got there and when, but the sentence that's underlined does not say why the beetle or the tree ended up where they ended up. That's just not in that sentence. So a lot of times we can do this. We turn a choice more into like a question itself, and if we can't directly answer that question, that's not a good sign. Now, I think both A and B are tempting. In choice A, it states the hypothesis that Chang and colleagues had set out to investigate using mimosa trees and B. tyrannus. Well, perhaps, right? Because it does seem that within a year, they found that 93% of the trees had been attacked by these beetles. But this is tricky because it's introducing in choice A this idea of like what I would call intention, right? We see this a lot in reading stuff for the SAT, right? What do the characters want? What do they desire? What do they hope for? What are they trying to do? Well, sometimes it just says, but if it doesn't, we're not really allowed to make assumptions about that. Does it actually say that Chang was trying to investigate this? No. It says that they found it, right? Maybe they're just looking at the trees and then all of a sudden 93% of the trees are dead. And they're like, what's going on here? Let's see what's going on. And they find some beetles, right? They didn't set out to investigate this big hypothesis about evolution. They're just looking at some trees and suddenly they all start dying, right? That's a perfectly reasonable explanation. And so we don't know what they set out to do. It's never mentioned. And it's certainly not mentioned in that underlined portion, right? This is just a general thing. It doesn't mention Chang at all. So this is a trap in my opinion. It feels like it could be right, but it's not. It's going too far. It's talking about the intention of these scientists. We don't know what was in their heads at the moment, so we're not allowed to make assumptions about that. Choice B is a little bit weaker. It presents a generalization that is exemplified by the discussion of the mimosa trees and B. tyrannus. Well, the generalization would be evolutionary links between predators and their prey persist across centuries and continents, right? The generalization is if you're a predator and your prey is somewhere and you bump into it, you're going to eat it, right? Just because of evolution. It doesn't say anything about the trees or the beetles, but it's in there as a general thing, a general statement that then we talk about as an example with the mimosa trees and the beetles. So exemplified means it serves as an example. So this is perfect, right? We're talking about evolution in general, but we're using the bees and the beetles and the trees to exemplify that, to be as a specific instance. Tricky, but this is why even when the passages are shorter, a lot of the work that we're going to need to do is in the choices, really analyzing what the choices are saying. I think that no matter what, you're going to understand enough of this passage that you can confidently summarize it. But whether or not you can notice those subtle things in the choices that make them wrong, that's really the skill that we're learning for the SAT reading.